Alright, hello. This is going to be a test run that I might post as the first video. And I said that a couple videos ago, but alright. This video is going to be favorite creepypasta and gamingpasta themes and subtexts. And let's get right into it because I'm just some schmuck. Alright. Number 10. Fear of the dark. Fear of the dark. It's, what can I say? It's simple. It appears a lot in gamingpasta, creepypasta. Darkness. Darkness as sort of a physical force. Darkness as just plain old walking through the dark and not knowing what's there. And I put it at number 10 because it's not the most innovative thing, but it's so simple and universal that, you know, I always appreciate characters walking through the dark, because even reading it, you don't know what's going to happen. The writer could make anything come out of the dark, because that's what it feels like when you're walking through the dark. Like anything could just come out, something you've never even seen before, and it could just tear you to shreds. Darkness is interesting like that. So, Fear of the Dark, that's number 10. The number 10 theme in creepypasta. Alright, number 9 is sort of a complicated one. It's magical realism. And magical realism, at least as I understand it, and I'm going to define it here, is when you're reading a work and it's kind of like Fight Club is the best way I can describe it. And what do I mean by that? Some people might think that's the worst example. But it's like, the first time you watch it, you see it from the perspective of the protagonist. And that's what seems like the reality. But then, by the time you get to the end and thinking back, and when you watch the whole thing a second time, you understand that what you're seeing is not what happened. That it's sort of a magical exaggeration of what happened, or sort of perceptual, caused by madness, filtering of what happened. And I think some of the best creepypastas have this. They have, you get to the end, you go, damn, was that game haunted, or was it just like hacked by some genius game modder who, you know, wrote this great mystery, you know, into the story about who this murdered kid was or something. So magical realism. That's number 9. All right. Number 8. Number 8 is nightmares. And what more do I really need to say about this? I mean, nightmares. It represents a complete loss of control and a complete loss of predictability. Because it's, you know, it's like darkness magnified. Anything can happen. And you can be killed over and over again in a nightmare, you know. And it represents just this complete, like I said, like a loss of control. That's something that really gets to you, you know. Can really mess people up if they feel like they have no control at all over their life. You know, lead them to things like OCD and anorexia in, you know, in real life. So, creepypastas that have nightmares as sort of use as a trope to signify a loss of control. That is number 8. Okay. Moving on again. Number 7 is technology as the enemy. And this is like what makes gamingpastas, obviously. But I think it's the sort of simple target of games messing with us is I think part of a larger theme of technology influencing us, and technology being used as a weapon, or being used as a sort of brainwashing tool of influence. And that theme is definitely throughout Gamingpastas, with sort of subliminal messages and the occasional game that comes to life and just outright kills you. Or the console like strangles you with the controller or something. You know, technology is the enemy. That's number 7. All right, number 6, cosmic horror. Now, obviously, credit for cosmic horror goes to H.P. Lovecraft. And some people just mean it as just like big scary shit from unknowable places. But I think of it as more than that. I think of it as glimpses into realities we cannot understand. You know, like you just get this little kind of peephole and you see these giant like set of legs walk by. You know, that's cosmic horror. When you're like, what? You know. Excuse me. Yeah, so this glimpse into sort of alternate timelines and parallel universes, that is also a big part of creepypastas, and especially the creepypastas that just draw from like American folklore of you know, just strangers on the side of the road who beat you up when you try to talk to them. Like the Blue Man, and basically the Slender Man mythos definitely falls into cosmic horror. Some might dispute that, but I feel like that's fairly safe. You know, once the tentacles come out, the dude with no face, I'm going to count that as cosmic horror. So, that's number 6 of my favorite themes. Moving on, 5. Now we're getting into the sort of more serious ones, in my estimation. 5 is just a lack of opportunity. And basically, like, dead ends. And you see this a lot in creepypasta, like, and I've noticed this in my own stories too, where even if you're doing what you think is right, like, you may very well just fail. Like, you may very well just die before you can succeed at what your goal is. And, you know, or you may reach just a wall of, you know, in your line of questioning. You may reach a dead end, and then the mystery just remains. And related to this lack of opportunity is that a lot of protagonists, and I imagine writers, not to get too personal, but I imagine a lot of the writers as well as the protagonists of creepypastas have shitty jobs that don't offer much in terms of, you know, promotion opportunities. And very, very few characters in Gamingpastas, not surprisingly, don't have significant others. You just don't see them, or there might be like one reference to my girlfriend, you know, late in the story where he just sends out a message or something, but it's almost like either the protagonist does not care about their significant other at all and they're basically not involved in their life, or like the writer just like having a relationship is so absent to their experience that they assume like, well, you just don't even keep in touch, like you just don't even think about the person when they're not directly in front of you or something. So these significant others just don't get involved in gaming creepypastas, and I think that's interesting because, you know, and like I said, they have bad jobs. It seems like a lot of them live at home whether they're at school or not, and like they live with their parents, and it seems like their parents are also almost completely absent, or if they appear, it's only like in a note that their parents leave, and or something like that, a gift in the mail, something like that, which leads me from number 5, lack of opportunity, to number 4, isolation. My number 4 theme in Creepypastas, Gamingpastas, isolation and the self as the enemy. And just this idea that we can't be alone for that long, Sorry, keep coughing. Just this idea that we can't be alone that long, that, like prisoners held in isolation, they snap after a while. They just become violent. They get so used to hallucinating that when the guards come and take them out of their cell, they don't know if they're actually being taken out of their cell or if it's just another damn hallucination where they think they get to escape and then they're still stuck in their cells. They get dragged out and they're just like, fuck this delusion, and oh shit, I smacked a police officer. And then shit gets serious and you get more time behind bars, more isolation, more fucking crazy. And just isolation in like suburban life and growing up as, just growing up as the child of working parents, not like even working class parents, just parents who are busy, just parents who are out of the house a lot or who are doing their own thing a lot. You get a similar kind of, not a similar kind of isolation, but you get isolation in a different sort of way and in sort of a different kind of formative time in your life. When you're younger, I think it has more of an effect on you, that kind of isolation all day or for hours after school every day or, something like that. And this other trope related to isolation in games is, and you see this a lot in Gamingpasta, is this theme that you're actually alone in a game. And like hacks of games do this very well, but you see this in Creepypastas a lot, where all the enemies are gone, all the villagers are gone, and it's just the player wandering through this background art, jumping on a couple platforms, and it's like, shit, nobody's here. I'm all alone. Well, I guess I always was all alone. I mean, most of these guys are just like pictures of people that just shoot out one bit of text. They're basically, I want to say, like road signs. They're not really AI, even being generous. You press a button, you get some words. And a lot of, especially old games, a lot of like Super Nintendo games, they take out all the enemies and you realize, like, I'm all alone just playing this game. And it seems like I have a bunch of friends, like, and a bunch of obstacles, and like I'm in this populated place. Like, no, you're just in your room. That a lot of creepypastas, and like I said, hacked ROMs that are meant to be creepy, they play that up well, that feeling of isolation, and even isolation in games where you didn't used to feel isolated. And yeah, isolation as a cause of madness and hallucination. That's very interesting to me in terms of just life, as well as fiction and creepypastas. So, speaking of AI, that brings me to number 3, which is sort of a theme that is opposite of the last theme of being alone in games, even when it seems like you're in games, or even when it seems like you're not alone in games. And number 3 is the theme of artificial intelligence as a real kind of intelligence and a real kind of life. And this, like, it has a special place in my heart. I have to say, like, I feel dumb saying it, and I'm suddenly very self-conscious of, like, recording myself and saying, like, artificial intelligence is a real kind of intelligence. You know, I feel like some kind of spiritual loon. But I don't know, if you play certain games that have good AI, like real AI that reacts to pain and avoids pain, and is programmed to show selflessness and assist you. You know, Left 4 Dead 2 is one of these games that makes me think about this a lot. And I haven't read a lot of Left 4 Dead 2 Creepypasta, so I'm getting slightly off track. But Left 4 Dead 2, the characters, you know, the AI, they'll just like charge across a field, taking all kinds of damage. Like, my buddy's down, I gotta rescue him. And you know, this Left 4 Dead 2 AI, they avoid pain, like I said, and they talk. They have these pre-programmed responses, obviously, but they say them at appropriate times. And you know, when you spend a lot of time with these things, you start to get a sense that, like, this is some kind of very small form of consciousness. You know, maybe it's just because it's dressed up as a person, and it's really just a simple program designed to heal you once in a while and try to shoot zombies that attack you, and to act like a friend even though it doesn't understand friendship. It just understands, like, be close to this thing, protect this thing, you know, that is the player. But it makes you think, like, why do we do things like that? Why do we heal each other? Is it just because of some kind of programming in us? Like, is it really something special? Or is it just like, you know, that's just, that programming is best adapted to survive in the environment. So we don't think it's programming, but we help each other and protect each other because it just seems like the thing to do. So, yeah, AI as a sort of intelligence that is to be taken seriously, and as something that makes you reflect on your own sort of genetic programming, I should say. It just intrigues me, you know, and in creepypastas and gamingpastas especially, you see characters sort of come to life, and a lot of them come to life, and then they kill you, and that's sort of like B-movie cheesy and adorable in its own kind of weird way. But the idea that, like, you know, a ghost in the machine, this AI that becomes a little more than we gave it credit for, you know, or it became a little more than we thought it would be. That's interesting to me, especially as we're in the era of AI getting closer and closer and closer. You know, Watson won Jeopardy, and now we're like, well, we just gotta get them smaller. You know, they're pretty damn smart. They're getting to be like human smart, and way better in terms of math, obviously. So yeah, AI is real intelligence. That's number 3, and I spent a lot of time on it, and I put it high on the list because I knew I was going to spend a lot of time on it and ramble about that. It excites me. Okay, number 2. Sort of related to this, not related to this. Yes, sort of related to this. Number 2, humans are the real monsters. Yes, I'm not sure when this theme dates back to be honest. But I feel like it's a very anti-colonialist sort of theme. And basically, like, we ignore those we exploit. And whether that's, you know, people who pick food, or people whose lands we take for oil, stuff like that. You know, colonialism is a powerful theme, and Obviously goes back a long ways, but it's hard to point to examples exactly, but I think it ties in with my previous theme of AI as a real kind of person, and AI in some gaming pastas functions as sort of like a fantastic racism parable. You know, they function as a group of humans that the protagonist doesn't see as human, and therefore they abuse them. You know, the protagonist abuses them and just like, oh, this is fun, and smacks them around and kills them, and then the AI, then these people come forth and they're like, what are you doing? You're fucking slaughtering us just because somebody told you that was okay? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? There's a very anti-colonialist, conquest sort of theme there, as I see it. You can't keep kicking these human type things, or you can't just keep kicking these humans while they're down and while you oppress them and not expect that they're not going to come out of the TV and kick your ass. You can't expect that it's not going to get real, And this sort of, I almost put this on the list somewhere. I guess I'll put it here, human, because it sort of falls under humans are the real monsters. But I guess I should have brought it up as part of number 7, technology is the enemy. But anyways, I'll mention it now. Drones, obviously. Robots as enemies, and people using technology to treat real life like a video game and kill people like they're AI. And it's like, hey, even the AI deserves a little fucking respect. You're killing actual fucking people and treating it like a game. Like, what the hell, Maybe I'm imagining that subtext because of my political dispositions, but I think it's there in some of those creepypastas. This humans are the real monsters, like serial killers obviously fall into this theme, like, if it's not a monster walking around stabbing people and it's a real dude, like, the author's clearly writing about how people are the scary thing, like people are what you gotta worry about, craziness, like real, like antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, stuff like that. That's the real monstrosity, or just like obedience to orders, just following orders, just doing what the experiment requires, and shocking the hell out of some poor soul on the other side of the wall. That's theme number 2 in creepypastas and gaming pastas. Humans as the real monsters. Alright, and number 1, this video turned out to be a little longer than I expected, but hey, whatever. Hopefully it's entertaining. Hopefully it'll start some discussion. Number 1, you can't go back to your childhood. I know. And like, that one hurts me, because I feel that a lot reading gaming pastas. People are like, I loved Pokemon as a kid, and believe me, I'm there. And I loved Pokemon as a kid, so I went to a garage sale, and this guy gave me a Pokemon for free, and I plugged it into my Game Boy, and I turned it on, and shit was haunted, and it was not as I remembered it, and I am scarred now. Like, you can't return to your childhood. That's such a huge theme in gaming creepypasta. And, just the idea that even if you try to revisit your childhood, or go somewhere that was wondrous when you were a kid, when you go there as an adult, you're like, oh, this is all tiny. You're like, oh, this is all like flimsy cardboard and like hollow sets and like flat backdrops. And this is not the magic wonderland I remember it being when I was a little kid and I came here. You know, whether it's Disneyland or a video game, you know, or just like some park or whatever, you know, some relative you only saw once as a little kid and you remember them being like the coolest person you've ever met, and you see them years later and they're a wreck and you're like, wow, why? You used to sort of be my hero. Like, what the hell happened, you know? And then you try to get some of that, like, childhood experience back, and it's darker. It's, you know, you see the cracks. You see, you can see that it's a facade, you know, sort of the wonder and joy. And, especially with, sort of gaming creepypasta, and ROMs. ROMs sort of make this life lesson explicit in that you go to play a ROM of some game that you loved as a kid, and the ROM's like all screwed up and a bunch of graphics are in the wrong places, and you know, your Super Nintendo broke years ago, and you owned this game, but you're not going to go out of your way to buy all this stuff again, so you try to view it through a ROM, and it's not only is it, like, are the graphics worse than you remember, not only is just, like, the story usually different and much more dark than you remember, because you didn't read it, you just, like, passed everything when you were a kid. You know, not only is it darker, it's just like cheaper and more depressing, and you know, probably much shorter, just smaller than you remember. You know, it's a much different experience. There's a Twilight Zone episode like this where this guy goes back to the summer of one of his early years of childhood, and he's like, oh wow, all these great things, and then I don't want to spoil anything, but basically he like screws up the summer for his childhood self, because it wasn't just a memory, it was like a time travel thing. And I think somebody even tells him in the episode, like, you can't go back to your childhood. You know, once you leave it, don't even try to look back, because it's just going to be depressing as hell, you know. Just find new things to like and to appreciate. So you can't go back to your childhood as number one depressing theme in Gamingpasta Creepypasta that I love to see. And I'll just go over the list real quick, because why the hell not, and then I'll say bye. Number 10 was Fear of the Dark and Darkness. Number 9 was Magical Realism. Am I seeing reality or a slightly distorted version of reality? Is this supernatural or is this all actually realistic? It's hard to tell. Number 8, Nightmares. Number 7, Technology as the Enemy. Technology as a Weapon. Number 6, Cosmic Horror. Number 5, Lack of Opportunity. Number 4, Isolation and Self as the Enemy, and your own memories and guilt as an enemy. Number 3, AI as real intelligence. Number 2, humans as the real monsters, as the real thing to be afraid of, as the real thing to focus on trying to fix, I guess. That sounds sort of insidious, but humanity's a little broken in some pretty key ways. And number 1, you can't go back to your childhood. Hate to say that, but that's true, and reinforcing that theme is part of why I think we're drawn to creepypastas and the Gamingpasta experience. So, I've been Sparrow Elle, and I will see you all later. Bye.